Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Fowler, and welcome to part 4 of my 4-part series on superneuroplasticity. In past episodes, we looked at the hard science about neuroplasticity, as discussed by Stanford neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman, among others, and how following certain protocols, especially when using hypnosis or certain psychedelics, can accelerate the process into superneuroplasticity, or SNP for short. We also looked at a case study where the S&P protocol was applied to Nathan's severe procrastination. He described how he rewired his brain and permanently reduced his procrastination by over 70% using my free subconscious optimization program. He did it in just one sitting. Now we look at how to apply the S&P protocol to permanently change one's core identity beliefs, like Steve did, who I interview later on in this episode. You won't want to miss this. The benefits he realized are massive. He changed his entire life. As he put it, he resolved at least 90% of his 10 out of 10 depression and despair by using the S&P protocol. I can identify with Steve, as I once struggled with severe manic depression, constant anxiety, despair, feeling no matter what I did, it wasn't good enough, and just feeling low value and hopeless, like there was no chance things would ever improve. And then I found out how to use superneuroplasticity to rewire my brain, and it quickly changed everything dramatically for the better. Steve later did a one on one session with me to resolve the last 10% of his issues, but most of his rewiring he did on his own using the same free program you can use when you join my online community, Mind Chrysalis. To use the program, just go to the URL right there, join for free, and then click on the classroom button in the upper left and take the SOS free course. The course is free but powerful. It helps you identify bad subconscious programs in you that make you struggle, and then it guides you through the process of going inward, putting yourself in a superneuroplastic state and changing the bad subconscious programs in you to programs that instead benefit and help you. It very well may change your life, like it's already changed the lives of Nathan, Steve, and many others. Now, I should be clear that the free program is do it yourself. It helps about 80% of people, but there will be some people whose issues are too complex for it to benefit them, or they may not be used to connecting to their inner world, in which case a one-on-one session with me or another experienced S&P coach may be beneficial. If you'd like a free 30-minute consult with me to discuss this or anything else you need to, any related matter, be sure to look for the link in the description to schedule this with me. So, to give a quick recap on what superneuroplasticity is, the following conditions must be met to place our brain in a neuroplastic state. These conditions are: number one, awareness of what in our mind we want to change. Number two, alertness, which is tied to epinephrine release. That's a neurotransmitter in our brain. And it is especially strong when we're feeling certain emotions such as shame, love, fear, or anger, or hate. Number three, acetylcholine release, which is tied to intense focus on what we wish to change internally or what externally we wish to learn or internalize. Number four, we actively make the internal change we wish to make, either by telling ourselves a new narrative or using other methods our brain naturally understands. And finally, the fifth requirement is number five, deep sleep or non sleep deep rest, where the changes are solidified. As we also discussed previously, Dr. Andrew Huberman established that using hypnosis or certain psychedelics can accelerate neuroplasticity into a more powerful state that I call superneuroplasticity, SNP. Now let's discuss how to use superneuroplasticity for big, permanent subconscious changes that are often life-changing. When making these big internal changes, it's important to not only meet the required conditions we discussed just now, but also to know what in our subconscious should be changed and what the new subconscious program should be to replace them. The biggest changes occur when we change our core identity beliefs, because these beliefs are the foundation of our behavior. James Clear, who wrote the book Atomic Habits, it's the best selling book ever on habits, he put it thus: the key to building lasting habits is focusing on creating a new identity first. Your current behaviors are simply a reflection of your current identity. What you do now is a mirror image of the type of person you believe that you are. To change your behavior for good, you need to start believing new things about yourself. So consider your own life. Do you have behaviors or habits that you wish you did not? Or are there things you've wanted to do, but internal resistance holds you back? Are there behaviors you've tried to change, but could not change permanently? This could be being out of shape or overweight or chronically procrastinating or telling yourself you'll be more social, but you can't maintain regular social engagement, for example, because you're just too anxious or timid, or you have a vice or addiction you cannot quit, or there's another bad habit you just cannot seem to break. The reason you cannot change for good is because you have not rewired your subconscious mind concerning who you believe you are. 95% of our behavior is determined by our subconscious, which is why, and by the way, you can Google that. Just Google what percent of our behavior is subconscious. You'll see the answer come up. This is established science. And this is why the father of modern psychoanalysis, Carl Jung, he said that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That's why you still struggle. This is where S&P can help. Make no mistake, using S&P correctly is a game changer. I've used it for myself, changed my life. Our core identity is a collection of beliefs we hold subconsciously, formed in childhood, about who we believe we are, what sort of value we believe we intrinsically and contextually have in different situations, and what our abilities are. People who believe they have low or no value and who believe their abilities are low, they're typically riddled with feelings of low self-esteem, inadequacy, or perhaps even despair or hopelessness. Also, they can have a lot of anxiety. Such beliefs and feelings are called toxic shame. Toxic shame is the most painful emotion we have. It's the root cause of most addiction, depression, codependency, insecurity, and maladaptive rage and anxiety. Almost everyone has at least a little toxic shame, and some people have massive amounts. These painful beliefs and feelings are a form of psychological trauma. For some, their negative core beliefs are so severe that they feel anxiety, depression, loneliness, hopelessness, or other negative emotions often or even constantly. That used to be me. Others only feel such emotions when they're triggered. So let's discuss what it means to be triggered, as it's very relevant to our overall discussion today. The most powerful subconscious programs are beliefs tied to feelings. As adults, anytime we encounter something in the outside world that's a match for a subconscious belief in us, the feeling tied to that belief is triggered. It comes to the surface, we feel it. Our brain wants us to avoid powerful subconscious feelings from being triggered if they're painful. So it develops numerous ways to avoid feeling such painful emotions. This may involve avoiding anything that could trigger the negative feeling, or it means we could resort to certain vices that numb out, or addictions that numb out the painful feelings, or we could dissociate or disconnect or just shut down from our emotions. These are all coping mechanisms to regulate and manage internal trauma. But despite our best efforts, certain triggers may nonetheless lead to intense or even overwhelming emotional pain. All of the foregoing is tied to toxic shame and other psychological trauma. But what if there were no toxic shame or psychological trauma in us? What if our core identity beliefs were not painful, but instead were good beliefs tied to good feelings, which resulted in natural, authentic confidence in our abilities and value? If that were the case, then all the foregoing maladaptive behaviors and coping mechanisms would simply be unnecessary. Our brain would not lead us to engage in these behaviors because there's no painful subconscious program. We don't need to cope. So it doesn't need to avoid triggering these painful feelings. We don't need to manage or cope with these feelings and beliefs if they're just not there, or if we have good beliefs there subconsciously. A person would not need comfort food, for example, to feel less lonely or sad if the subconscious program causing the loneliness and sadness just wasn't there. A person won't feel anxious in social situations if they believe the real them has intrinsic value, that they are perfectly likable and lovable just for who they are, and that if others don't see their value, it just means others are incapable of seeing it. That's their blindness, that's their problem. Someone won't be projecting negative feelings onto others if at their core they feel good about who they are. Those negative beliefs and feelings are just not there to project. So there's no need to be needy, clingy, or manipulative in order to obtain approval, love, or validation from others if at your core you already approve of and truly love yourself. Do you see where this is going? If your core identity is strong, if you believe the real you is perfectly acceptable, that you are good enough just as you are, and that with persistent effort you can learn and grow and obtain more skill and knowledge until you're able to get what you want, and that it's okay to pursue what you really want, then an absolutely massive amount of maladaptive behavior, anxiety, and suffering is just gone. It's just not there. Our normal emotions, of course, are still there because these methods don't turn us into robots or rob us of our humanity. But we can get to a place where our emotions, anxieties, and fears are working in a healthy manner, powerfully rewiring our brain with superneuroplasticity to optimize what we feel and believe about who we are. It's life changing. If everyone used SMP to this end, the world would be a much, much, much better place. That's why it's my life's mission to bring this to the world. Don't expect the mainstream or big pharma to bring these techniques to the world. A brief clip of Dr. Huberman on Joe Rogan's podcast says all that needs to be said about their motivations and why they'll never bring this to the world. Let's watch that quickly right now.
This is now really big science, and pharma's moving in very quickly. What they're trying to do is create non-psychedelic psychedelics, figure out what sorts of chemistry changes that doesn't give you hallucinations and create new antidepressants. That's what they want to do with psilocybin, because doing 2 journeys on a drug and then you're done, that's not good business.
They don't want to get you better right away. Fixing you in 2 sessions and you're done, you're fixed. They'll never do that. That, like Dr. Huberman said just now, that's not good business. So even though they won't bring these techniques to you because it's not good business for them, we're going to do it. So now let's look at Steve's case. I mentioned him earlier, to see how he used SMP to rewire his core identity and how it changed his life. So here we go. This is definitely worth a watch. Let's check this out.
So I came across your free program around last year, about September time. And when I came across that
7
and
months
your
ago.
work
Yeah.
7 months ago, and I was depressed, anxious, highly worried, the worst state that anyone could be in. If they could imagine the worst state that they're in, that was me.
And was that a
And
normal state, or was it triggered by some traumatic, like recent event, or what was that about?
I think a lot of it had been triggered by traumatic recent events, but it was also a part of me that just felt so worried and anxious about my own self as a person and how I could be without around people as well,
Mm.
in terms of myself.
A lot of it
And
was just there, but something amplified it as well. Is that accurate?
abs-
What was
yeah,
that, if
that's
you don't mind me asking? That uh,
I think a lot of the events that happened was, I think, like, loss of my job at that time,
mm,
as well. So I had nothing to fall back on at that time. I didn't have a job to work to. I had to, you know, kind of figure out a way of how I was going to get through things,
okay.
especially from my trauma from my previous line of work as well that I had. So I had to deal with that as well.
So you're very depressed and anxious, and then tell me how the self-hypnosis, the subconscious optimization system, the free course, how was that for
Yeah,
you at the beginning, and then how did it help you? What was that process like, and what happened then?
yeah, absolutely. At the start when I come across your free program, I was like, "This is amazing." There's this audio and there's an instruction manual of how to do it. And don't get me wrong, when I first started it, I had to get my head around it all, the Dive to the Five worksheet, how to even just use the audio, how to just go through it all. But what I realized is take my time with it. Go for
Yeah,
it
you
properly.
actually
Don't try
followed
and
the instructions and did the steps,
yeah,
which is a
yeah.
bit of a skill to learn. I mean, some people, the first audio, they already get benefit. That happens a lot. But for you, was the first 1 or 2 or 3 times you listened, the audio's 46 minutes. Did that help you at all, or was it later, or what happened there?
It did. It definitely first 3, 4 times I listened to it, it really allowed me to connect with the feeling that I was getting a lot more than what I was
Mhm.
before, where I was more disconnected or I was resisting it a lot more. And I was more almost trying to force the feeling to come. Whereas later on it just came naturally. I could tell, I could read it in my body, I could really be more intuitive with how I was genuinely feeling about something. And
Okay.
that's when I started to a gateway of just everything really.
Yeah, what were the benefits then? What started happening?
Man, just doing the free stuff, I became more free. I just felt more happier. I just walked around. I basically took 90 kg off my back and walked around with 0 kilograms, if I put it that way.
90 kilograms, so 200 pounds for us guys in the US. Well, I'm in Mexico. And
Yeah.
it was gone. Is that what you're saying?
Um, yeah, it was gone.
What
And
do you think happened?
I just felt all the baggage that I was carrying with me in my mind just went. It just went. It just cleared out. It just dissipated. And I just felt free. Felt like I could run and just glide through the wind, you know,
How long did this effect last for? Was it temporary, long term, permanent,
long term,
long term?
long term. That has remained with me now.
So
Um,
you found this 7, 8 months ago, you're still feeling it.
yeah.
And how many
And yeah,
times did you listen to that? It's a 46-minute audio. How many times did you listen to that? But you did the worksheet first because it's an active process. Would you agree?
absolutely,
Active
absolutely.
process. For our listeners, we actually follow what we're doing is in line with a protocol called I call SuperNeuroplasticity. Dr. Andrew Huberman calls it accelerated neuroplasticity. I just call it super. He is following these steps. I'm on part 3 of a 4-part series. So if you guys watch the super neuroplasticity series, we follow that protocol in this program, and these are the type of effects you get. So how many audios did you have to listen to where you really felt like, wow, that weight's gone, I'm free? How many times do you have to listen to it?
Um, oh, maybe like, to be honest, 4 or 5 times for me, to really get the kicking effect of it.
And then you're just
And
like 0 to 10, how strong is that benefit for you?
the benefit was like, I want to say like 9, 10, just so beneficial, really beneficial. Not even, honestly just 10. I can say that with
Would you
confidence.
say it was life changing?
Yeah, 100%. If I didn't come across that, I don't know who I would be, what I would be, but because I came across that, I did the audio, I engaged in the free stuff, which is just so valuable. Honestly, I felt, man,
Yeah.
it's life changing. I'd pay anything for it.
We work, I don't want to get emotional. We work on your core identity. That's why. And then you decided to do a one-on-one session with me. What led you to want to do a one-on-one session, which we just barely finished? What led you to want to do that?
I think there was always a bit of a 5-10% in me that, even though I knew I was aware of, I felt I needed guidance with it, and I just needed someone to help me guide through that last 5-10%, like the victory lap you call it. You
Yeah.
know, you just want to run the last lap, but you just need a bit of help with it. You
There's
know,
some
and
hard to get stuff you felt you needed some pro help with. So
absolutely, and yeah, definitely.
do you think my one session got the rust back, or is there still a little there that we haven't cleaned out yet? Or what do you feel?
No, literally, it's quite funny actually, from doing your session and just even doing just the quarter of that session has just cleared like 95 to 98% of it all. So all the
Nice.
other stuff inside it was just the additional benefit I was going to get anyway. But yeah, that's how
Yeah, we just
powerful it
had the
is.
session. So how do you feel now about what was
Oh,
that session like, and how do you feel afterwards?
so do you know what? Peaceful, so peaceful in myself, and just felt like almost that 5-10% of weight has just been lifted off. And I just had a point where I could visualize it all so clearly, but couldn't stop smiling about it as well when I was letting go as well. That's how powerful it was. It was just like I was loving, enjoying the process of it and being in that state and letting go, even though it was of stuff that was of trauma,
Yeah.
in a weird way. So it's
So
yeah,
you
it was
had
so super powerful, super powerful.
it's my honor and pleasure, sir. You had big trauma. You follow some steps, fill out a worksheet, which took some practice. You listen to an audio first 3 or 4 times, really helping, but then by maybe 4 or 5 times, huge different, big weight lifted. Got rid of most of
Absolutely.
it just doing that. Come to me, we'll
Yeah.
get rid of the rest. One session, is that accurate?
That is 1,000,000% accurate. I can tell you that. I can tell you that for sure.
Very good. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience or anyone thinking about doing this who's struggling? Maybe other people are anxious
Yeah,
or depressed. What would you tell them?
absolutely. All I can say is, guys, if anyone who's struggling, I know Ryan knows, we all know what it's like to be there, to struggle, to go through what you're going through. And you really do not have to suffer alone. How I see it is you can definitely get benefit from the free audio, but when I look at it in terms of how you can just benefit your own mind, your own mental health, your own brain wiring, I mean, I'd pay anything for it. And I really encourage you to do it because it's going to change your life. I'd pay anything just to change your life. And I hope you can relate because this is life changing. It's not temporary, it's forever. You can just live a free and a good life. And all it requires is you just being guided through it. And that's okay. We all need to be guided through things. So I I can't even recommend it. I more than recommend it. There's words can't describe it, but it's superhuman powerful.
Makes my day just hearing that.
Yeah.
Damn it, I don't want to cry
Nah, man, honestly, life changing, man.
because I
Life
know what it's
changing.
like to suffer. I've been through it too.
I know. And you're gonna change the world, man. You're gonna change the flipping world.
The method will change the
Trust
world.
me, man.
Yeah.
There's a group of guys, people out there who are gonna just need you, man. Because I needed you, we all needed you, and you were there, man. And yeah, super powerful, super, super powerful. And anyone who's suffering, you don't need to suffer, man. And your wisdom, your guidance, your knowledge, your everything has just been, honestly, from the bottom of my heart, super insanely powerful. I can't say any more, really. It's so, yeah, so powerful.
Steve is very good at saying what he wants to say. So that pretty much says it all. That is not a fluke. You can go on this YouTube video channel, Ryan Fowler SOS, look at the other client interviews. There's about 24 at this point, more coming. It's not a fluke. We do this all the time. Of course, not everyone has big trauma like him. And there's always, everyone's a little different, but that is not uncommon. So if you try the free program on my online community, that link right there, join for free, like Steve did. You get the same program he did. You'll see how our techniques help you explore and become aware of these root subconscious issues. You can then use the self hypnosis audio in the program to guide you inward to these core traumas in you, where the audio guides you to engage SuperNeuroplasticity and then heal and replace the maladaptive programs with the best core beliefs. It's up to you, but I hope at this point you're curious enough to give it a shot. There's absolutely no cost or obligation for the free program. It can be very powerful. It works for 80%. Some have more complicated situation, do need one-on-one. But we will also start soon hosting regular webinars, which you can access through the online community, Mind Chrysalis, to further help you use superneuroplasticity to change your life. So I hope to see you there. I hope that this series on superneuroplasticity has been helpful to you. Thank you. Thank you for watching.